DC News Now, remembering 9/11 and honoring the lives lost.
The celebration of the service and the sacrifice that comes with that service.
How the DMV is paying tribute tonight.
Well, it will be a quiet and sunny start to our Thursday, but we'll begin to see clouds roll their way in. A look at this forecast up next.
Then DC's mayor firing back after Donald Trump's comments during the presidential debate.
It's time to turn the page on that divisiveness, the lies, the disrespect for the rule of law.
Hear her full reaction ahead.
Plus, we're stretching your dollar with credit card savings, how you can keep more cash in your pockets.
And the benefits of an occasional peaceful pause.
Noise pollution is linked to mental health issues.
That's tonight's Wellness Wednesday.
You're watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
And thank you for joining us for DC News Now at 5. I'm Mark Hall.
And I'm Elisa Gale. Well, 23 years ago today, terrorists hijacked 4 planes, crashing 2 into the north and south towers of the World Trade Center.
A third struck the Pentagon, and passengers on the hijacked 4th plane fought back, forcing the terrorists to crash in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Nearly 3,000 people died in the initial aftermath. This is a live look at the Pentagon in Arlington tonight, where an American flag has been flying over the building, a solemn reminder of the 184 lives lost on that day.
Yeah, and first responders and district leaders paid tribute to those lost at the Pentagon today. And we found that some who responded that day are still working for DC Fire and EMS.
DC News Now's Daniel Hamburg is live at Engine Company 16 in Northwest DC. Daniel, what was today's ceremony like?
Well, Mark, it was somber, but also reflective of the way that the district dealt with terrorism that day. Here at Engine 16, you can see the flag at half staff to honor those who died across the country, but especially right across the Potomac River.
It was 23 years ago, and our world changed forever.
All this time has passed, but the memory of 9/11 is still fresh for paramedic Aretha Lyles.
I was working overtime at another firehouse. I'm driving to Engine 6, and all of a sudden I see this plane. I'm like, God, that plane is so low. And that's when I found out there had been a terrorist act.
She ended up at work for 3 days, back and forth to the Pentagon. Fire Chief John Donnelly wasn't supposed to work that day, but answered the call.
Never forget. Never forget means remembering that everybody came to work that day, right? Everybody.
Remembering those who risked their lives, and more importantly, those who lost their lives. Mayor Muriel Bowser reading the names of DC public school children and teachers who were on a field trip, and other Washingtonians all aboard Flight 77, as well as the 4 Washingtonians who died at the Pentagon.
We shall never forget them. We pray for their loved ones and their families. And we lift up the many stories of heroism and courage from September 11th.
Donnelly says remembering 9/11 is about more than just tragedy.
It's a celebration of the service and the sacrifice that comes with that service.
Let us continue to always talk about events like this, and let us always be ready and protect each other.
And protecting each other, of course, the main thing that comes to mind is first responders, talking about police, fire, EMS, and even 911 call takers. There was a talk about the legacy that particularly this department has created in the last 23 years since that fateful day. In Northwest, Daniel Hamburg, DC News Now.
All right, Daniel, thank you for those reflections. Meantime, in Virginia, Arlington National Cemetery held a wreath-laying ceremony this morning, while the town of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, also paid their respects.
And a live look at Ground Zero in New York City, where earlier today a solemn ceremony was held. There were moments of silence, followed by the reading of the names of the victims. President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Donald Trump, and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, all putting their politics aside to attend.
And taking a live look at the Washington Monument tonight. It's beautiful.
It's another beautiful day, Annalisa. Let's head over now to weather forecaster Brittany Ward. And Brittany, how long will this wonderful weather continue?
You know, we're going to be holding on to dry conditions, Mark and Annalisa, as we head through the weekend. So definitely soak it all in. We are seeing that wall-to-wall sunshine at this hour, all thanks to high pressure just off to the northeast. We'll be holding on to clear skies as well as we head through your evening, but temperatures right now out the door not looking too bad. We're sitting in the 80s across much of the DMV, 82 currently in Hagerstown, 84 here in the nation's capital. We're sitting at 81 degrees there in Winchester, 83 currently in Cumberland, Maryland. Now for the rest of your evening, it's going to be quiet across the area. Right around that 7 o'clock hour though, here in the nation's capital, we could start to see those temperatures dipping down into the upper 70s. Lower 70s could be seen as we head right around 9 o'clock, and then it looks like we finally see those temperatures begin to dip down into the upper 60s as we head right around 11 o'clock. So if you plan on heading to the Nats game this evening, it's going to be a gorgeous forecast. Now for the next 48 hours, not looking too bad. We'll be holding on to dry conditions as we head through your Thursday and your Friday. However, we'll start to see a few clouds begin to build their way in, and then it looks like we are tracking some showers and storms in that 7-day forecast. So keep it here. We'll have a full check of that, guys, coming up.
Brittany, thank you. D.C. police are investigating a shooting that injured a man in the southeast. It happened this morning, 3700 block of Alabama Avenue. Police found the victim unconscious and not breathing. The case is under investigation. Right now, reaction is pouring in after last night's presidential debate. One topic hitting close to home for D.C. locals.
Yeah, moderators asked former President Donald Trump if he regretted anything about what he did on January 6th. He said he blames the riot at the Capitol and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
D.C. News Now's Randy Bass is outside the Capitol this afternoon. Randy, what was the reaction from the mayor?
Yes, January 6, 2021, still very fresh in the minds of voters and Washingtonians. Nearly 4 years after it all happened, it was brought up again at last night's debate. President Donald Trump says he had nothing to do with it. When moderators asked him if he regretted anything about that particular day, he faces criminal prosecution here in D.C. still in connection with January 6. Those proceedings are happening at the federal courthouse right here in the district on Pennsylvania Avenue, not far away from the Capitol where it all happened. Trump said last night he offered 10,000 National Guard soldiers and also said he wasn't responsible for security, saying that responsibility fell on former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the mayor. Hear what he had to say and how the mayor responded when asked about it this morning.
It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
And we're always going to state the truth and facts about what happened on January 6th. And the fact is the D.C. Police Department, United States Capitol Police, beat back a violent mob that was summoned by Donald Trump, saved that building, saved the people in it, and saved our democracy.
Overall, the peaceful transfer of power was a hot topic during last night's debate. We did hear from Democratic nominee and current Vice President Kamala Harris as she was asked about January 6th as well. She said that America doesn't have to go back to the events that we saw unfold on January 6th, saying she wants an end to practices that she says attacks the foundations of American democracy. On Capitol Hill, I'm Randy Bass, DC News Now.
All right, Randy, thank you. Meantime, in Prince George's County, the trial for the teen charged in a deadly shooting is underway today in Upper Marlboro. Abdurrahman Diaby is charged with murder following the deadly shooting a year ago today near Duval High School, which resulted in the death of 16-year-old Jada Madranamore. Now, in court today, we learned of text messages between Diaby and others in a group chat that was shared to the courtroom mentioning Duval High School and even suggesting the purchase of ammunition. The trial is expected to continue tomorrow. And right now, a judge in D.C. is deciding a sentence for 2 former officers convicted in the death of Karon Hilton Brown after police pursuit back in 2020. One of those officers is set to be sentenced for second-degree murder, the other facing obstruction and conspiracy charges. Prosecutors say officers spotted Karon Hilton Brown riding a moped on a sidewalk. They say Officer Terrence Sutton followed him for 10 blocks through the Brightwood Park neighborhood and into an alley. When Hilton Brown turned out of that alleyway, he was hit by another car. He died 2 days later. A jury convicting Sutton on second-degree murder charges. Prosecutors say Sutton, along with former Lieutenant Andrew Zabowski, conspired to hide details and circumstances of the crash from investigators. Officers who testified today, including former supervisors along with the defense team, say prosecutors were motivated to bring charges against them after protests over Hilton Brown's death in the district. Now, we're expecting that judge to officially impose a sentence for both officers tomorrow afternoon.
And over $1 million worth of damage reported after a fire at a high-rise apartment building in Bethesda Tuesday night. Montgomery County Fire responded to Promenade Apartments on Pooks Hill Road. Crews found heavy smoke coming from the 6th-floor hallway closet. The fire caused, again, over $1.5 million in damage and ruled accidental. There were no reported injuries. Well, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and Police Chief Pamela Smith are reacting to more protests overnight in the nation's capital. This time, the protest turned violent, and our crews witnessed water bottles and other items thrown at police officers. 7 people were arrested. The protests are in response to police killing of Justin Robinson. Police did release body cam video of that shooting outside of a Southeast McDonald's on Monday, and police say that Robinson had a gun with him when they approached the car he was in.
We've stated before, we will certainly allow any peaceful protest here in the District of Columbia, but whenever there's any violence against any person, property, or individuals, we will certainly take action on that. And as you know, on last night, there were 7 individuals arrested in front of our 7th District Station, specifically for throwing bottles, rocks, eggs at our officers.